Hi there, it's Trisha in her 60s, and I am back from my trip to Boston to graduate from WGU. I just thought I'd hop on here to give you just a quick little synopsis of what it was. I will tell you one thing. First of all, I'll put a link to the actual ceremony in case anyone wants to see it, only because just to at least see how they did it at the beginning and, just see how they did it and stuff like that. But first off, Boston was beautiful. We had the best time. We got there Thursday late. The weather was beautiful. First, when we got there, though, it was like 66 degrees and we were freezing because we had packed for, 80 degrees. But they said that was just that was weird. That was not normal, and so we just were fine after that. But yeah, it was freezing Thursday evening and all. But then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, gorgeous blue skies, maybe a little puffy cloud every so often. 80 degrees. You're not even really sweating. It was nice. And the hotel was called the Moxie. The Moxie was not like any other Marriott you've been to, I'm sure. It was like sleeping in a 1990s nightclub with the industrial everything and neon. I knew it was in the theater district, and location was perfect. Literally like 2 blocks away from the further reaches, the furthest, I guess, south border of Boston Common. The big park there. From 1634, I think, if I remember what the sign says, 1634. So I was like, wow, okay. Location, perfect. And so once I got over we're going to be in a nightclub, in a 90s nightclub setting, it was fine. Friday took the hop on, hop off, which is something I like to do if you're going to be in a city that you've never been to before. I take a hop on, hop off, and I just stay on it the whole time. And usually, there's 2 or 3 circuits. This one had 2. And so I went through both circuits, and it was great. You got to see, don't ask me what all these monuments and things were because I don't remember, but it was a great snapshot of especially the historical part of the city. It didn't get into the financial district or anything, but we were we were near that. Dog friendly, very bike friendly, even to the point where people are like, why do we have so many bike lanes? But it was nice like that. So that was fun. And then Friday night, WGU continues to impress me. Friday night, they had an alumni party at the Science Center that they had there in Boston. And it was, after hours. So they basically just opened it up to us. And that was really great. You got to see some of the exhibits like the dinosaurs and some of the geology stuff with rocks. Well, they had a DJ, they had a dance floor, they had free food, including, of course, lobster rolls, which is what I went to, because it's like, you're going to go to Boston, you have to have lobster. They had photo booths in different places. It was very family friendly. They had games outside for families to play. And of course, because you're in this science place, they already have kid friendly things for you to do anyway. They were assuming people were going to be dressed, at least business casual or maybe more. And so they had a place where they would take your photos in, like a professional background. So you could use it for your LinkedIn or whatever, or if you just wanted a nice professional picture of you, it was great. I really appreciated it. Had a great time Friday night. So then Saturday was graduation, and thankful what there's 4 schools of education at WGU. They have the School of Nursing, the School of Business, the School of Education, and the School of Technology. So, and together they had almost 1,200 graduates going at this from that weekend. So what they did, they had 2 ceremonies. They had a morning ceremony, afternoon ceremony. The morning ceremony was the School of Education and Nursing. That was the morning. In the afternoon, what they had was the School of Technology, which is what I was in, and the School of Business. Lots and lots of MBAs. Lots of MBAs, I'll tell you that. In our graduation, we had almost 800 people graduating, 770 something, I think 778, something like that. It was at the TD Arena, which is, their arena up there. And once again, they had this arranged the best they could. I'll tell you that. They have it down. You go in, you have to arrive dressed. They want you to have everything, and I'll get to that in a minute. That they want you to be wearing your cap and gown. You get in, and everybody has a QR code. That QR code is you. So they scan you in. And then the first thing they do once you get to like the holding area where everyone starts congregating is, if you have a name that is mispronounced, go to that line, which was brilliant. So you go to the line and you can tell them phonetically how to pronounce your name. I did it even though, Trisha is not hard, but Pena, because it's spelled P-E-N-A usually, without the tilde, they don't know how to pronounce it. So I said, well, just pronounce it like there's a Y in there, P-E-N-Y-A, and you'll get it. And I thought that was very thoughtful. I thought that was great. So then there was a section where, let's say you forgot maybe your gown is too big or too small or whatever, or you forgot your cap, or you forgot your tassel or something. They had all those where you could, get yourself all situated. And then at the end, right before you go out, they had this gauntlet that you walk through of people who would make sure you were dressed exactly the way you needed to be dressed for, because you have different things that go on. This goes on top of this, but this goes under that. And they also had very smart, every person there was armed with about 1 million bobby pins. And that is for the cap. All right, I got a couple of those things here. I just was going to show you. First off, all right, cap. I know you know what a cap looks like, these cap and gowns. But when was the last time you played with one, really? Okay, it's supposed to fit. It fits like this. Oh, wait a minute. It fits like this. And it's on this side now that I graduated. But you can't, it's not going to just stay. At least we're not with my hair. So I had a whole bunch of bobby pins back here holding it. And at the time, it was funny because my hair just kept going I'm like, okay. But it was the best I could do with it. But I got my tassel, my little WGU tassel. And so we got that. I just wanted to show you trying to put my hair into this thing. All right, the other things that I was wearing, this, which goes over this way, and this is optional. You didn't have to have this. I wanted one because it had the year and it had WGU, And this is something, you know, you don't need to keep your cap and gown and everything, but this is something small that you can keep. You're going to keep your, I think I'm going to keep the cap, at least for now. I don't know if I need the gown. I'm sure there is a choir somewhere that would like that, or a school or a something that does, you know, for a theater department. So, and I had 2 cords. The first cord is the color of the school, the blues of the school, and this is their philanthropic cord. They have a charity that if you wanted to donate to for scholarships going forward, that's what this was for. So I had this cord. And then the last item is this purple and, I guess purple and white, yeah. This purple and white cord, which was Women in Technology. So this was given to the people graduating in Women in Technology. So they lead us out into the, once we're all decked out and we got the okay that we're all right, we went and sat, you know, and again, they had, the only separations they had were the 2 schools. They had the tech school on one side and the business school on the other side, and then they had the master's people up ahead and the, that's a loud bird, and the bachelor people behind. So other than that, however you ended is how you sat. So once it started, now of course we were on the floor. They opened up the seating area for guests, and it was really nice to see some of these families. And of course, once they started talking to everybody and the people, you know, yay, you know, it was really nice to see. It really was. All ages of graduates. And I wasn't the only old one, but I will tell you, they said something at the beginning where when they were just first introducing the speakers and things like that, and they said that our class, or they say class, but it's the people who were there, so you got to take it with a grain of salt, but still, that the class graduating then ranged from age from 17 to 61. 61, that's me. So I was called out, yay. You know, obviously not by name, but, you know, I was the 61-year-old who graduated. So that was kind of cool to be the oldest one that graduated there. We had some great speakers. The speakers spoke, and I'm going to turn it there. That's better. The speakers spoke. Does that make sense? Speakers spoke? Yeah. And then they called us up again, just in order. You had tech and then business and blah, blah, blah. What they did was you had to have that QR code again. So you had to have your phone with you. So if you saw everybody with their phones, it's not because, oh, you can't live without your phone. No, that's not it. We needed the phone for the QR code. So what we did, and I'll try to get a picture to show you what the stage looked like from you know, the viewing part, because if you're watching it on TV, or excuse me, if you're watching the replay on YouTube, when it comes to the graduates, you just see the graduates. You just see, you know, so-and-so and their name and what they graduated with. You don't see them walking across the stage. You don't see them shaking hands or anything, although we did. But what you see, and this is again how they were able to get through 700 and something people in less than an hour, is they just, when you got to the backstage area, they scan your QR code. And then in the QR code, you know, again, they said that knows who you are and that knows what your major was. They tell you to go to one of the, they had 3 different stations. They tell you to go to one of the camera stations. and whichever one you go there, and they have a television camera, with a light and the green and red lights, like TV. And they said, when the light comes on, then you're on. So if you're going to wave or if you're going to do whatever, just so you know. And then that's what happened. You hear them pronounce your name, and then the light goes off. You walk off stage. The next person will get behind you, and it continues. But then when we walked off of the camera area, then we were actually, because that was backstage, then we were actually then on the stage, because we had to on stage to walk back down to our seats. So there's where we shook the hand of the president of WGU. And then we just would sit again in the area we were supposed to sit in. You're probably not going to be next to the person you were next to before, but it doesn't matter. But it was great, just hearing the applause for some of these people. They must have had their entire families out there. And it was just nice. It was nice. They couldn't have done it better. So that's was graduation. Of course, Charlie was there. I really appreciated him being there for me. I know that my parents, had they been able to travel, they would have been up there too. But they watched it. What was so neat is it was live, and you could watch it live. My parents watched it live. My girlfriend Becky watched it. Other friends who I gave the link to afterwards, they were able to watch it and watch my part. I'm not expecting anyone to sit there and watch the whole thing, because you just want to see the one part of your friend, and that's about it. So that it was nice, and again, the day was perfect. So afterwards, we went and had a nice dinner. And we weren't the only ones. There were other families around, because, there was lots of restaurants in that area. It was really good. It was, what was the name of it? Something on the Square was what it was called. It started with the letter T. I'll figure it out. I'll put it up here. But anyway, it was really good. After dinner, we came back to the hotel and finally did a big trek up the Boston Common, because we had only gone a little bit into it before. When we were going to the hop on, hop off, it was basically where the entrance, or where their main place was for the hop on, hop off. So we had been there, but we hadn't really walked through the park. So we finally did that, went to the Embrace, and I'm going to put a picture of it here, because the Embrace is a bronze statue. I don't know how big it is. I'll have to get all that information and figure that out. That was made from a photograph of Dr. and Coretta Scott King. They were hugging each other like this. You can imagine, one person's hugging the other one like that. We got to see that, which was, like I said, that was a really neat statue or sculpture, not statue. Also, they were having the 250th anniversary of the Marines. It was being celebrated in Boston, because Boston is the headquarters of the Marines, apparently. And so in Boston Common, they had landed 3 or 4 different helicopters. I'm trying to think of the word, helicopters, I guess, of different eras and different things. And the entire city, I didn't say this earlier, but the entire city was filled, and I mean filled, with Marines dressed to the nines. Apparently it was also a big recruitment effort that they were using, this anniversary for. But we got to walk around and see these different helicopters and things. And like I said, it was just a great day. The weather, it was perfect. It was great. And then Sunday, I went back to the Seaboard area that I had seen when we were doing the hop on, hop off. I went there because they had it's a museum, what was it? The Institute of Contemporary Art in Boston. And I said, oh, well, let me do that, because I find if I ever doubt that I am an artist or stuff like that, go to a museum of contemporary art, and then you will find, oh, yeah, I can hang with this. I can hang with the big boys. So I did that. It was less than 2 miles walk. It wasn't bad. It was a great walk. I wasn't in a rush, because what was nice is we had to check out of the hotel, but we still had all day, all afternoon to explore. And so that's why we decided to, do one more day of doing that type of thing. And so, like I said, I walked all the way to the seaboard area, to that museum, saw some interesting things in the museum, and then came back. I was going to stop at James Hook, the famous lobster place. I was going to stop there, but I looked, and it was a lobster roll, the smallest that they had, which I know it's a good size, but still, it was more than I wanted to pay. So I'm like, you know what? No, that's okay. That's okay. So that was my trip to Boston, and that was the graduation. I appreciate everybody who has been so supportive of me, going back to school and things like that. Again, if you've got questions about WGU, and I will help you, and if I don't know the answer, I can certainly point you to the right direction. I'm still, I know I don't need it since I'm retiring and everything, but gee whiz, I would maybe get my master's, because I'm only like 4 classes away from getting it. I may as well just get it, and that way I would have it, because, we don't know what's going to be happening here in, the next months and years. So being as educated as I can, especially on paper, is not going to hurt anybody. Well, thank you for being here. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I just thank you so much for listening, for being there, while I'm finding my footing in what this channel will really be. I'm just thrilled you're watching. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.